Hello everyone, welcome to the course Information System and Engineering Economics. Hope you are watching the lecture series on ISEE and solving the assignment questions very regularly. This is the first session on Unit 6, that is Understanding Cash Flow and Taxes. The objective of this course is to introduce the term depreciation of money and cash flow analysis. The cash flow is the tool that enables the management to track the movement of money and in and out of an business. It is the cycle of cash inflows and outflows that determine the financial health of the businesses. Another objective is to prepare computer engineering students to analyze and understand the importance of cash flow for their own startup companies. Today, we are entering into the new topic of Unit 6, that is accounting for depreciation. One obvious question may arise in your mind that why to learn depreciation accounting? The honest answer is it is necessary for measuring a company's net income in each accounting period. As well as to demonstrate this, let's assume that a retailer purchases a truck. For example, suppose he has purchased the truck at $70,000 on the first day of the current year, but the truck is expected to use for 7 years. It is not logical for the retailer to report the $70,000 as an expense in the current year and then report $0 expenses during the remaining 6 years. However, it is logical to report $10,000 of expenses in each year of the 7 year that the truck is expected to be used. The learning outcome of today's session is you will be able to use the depreciation or the depletion method to reduce the book value of a capital investment in an asset. Our last 3 lectures deals with economics and management, in which we briefly discussed the equivalence calculation under the inflation. So just try to recall that how many types of inflation. I am quite sure that you are able to recall the types of inflation. Yes, that's right. There are 2 major types of inflation. First is the rate of inflation and second is time period of inflation, such as wartime, post-war time. So that is the thing associated with the question. Then next we take a quick review of our Unit 5. In Unit 5, that is economics and management, we briefly discussed the equivalence calculation under inflation, that causes of inflation based on the demand side and supply side. After that, we learn social and economic measure to control inflation. We have also described the present worth analysis. We learn the importance of careful consideration given to the time period converted by the analysis. After that, we review the alternative methods such as net present value, profit index, index rate of return, that is IPR, IRR, and we conclude Unit 5 with the discussion on life cycle, in which we analyze the cost. We learn about annual equivalence worth criteria. We get to know about AW with repeating cash flow. This is the summary of Unit 5. Next, we will see contents of today's lecture. We saw the summary of our previous unit. We plan to learn about accounting for depreciation. Okay. The content of this session, as we begin with introduction to the cash flow and tax, which is the very important topic. Every engineer must know the basics of the cash flow report. because it informs the reader of the business cash flow position. Then we will proceed to learn about accounting for depreciation. The depreciation is necessary for measuring the company's net income in each accounting period. After that, we will address the major issue, that is causes of depreciation. Then we will review the three popular methods for calculating the depreciation value, such as straight line method, then written down value method, also known as reducing balance method. Then third method is sinking fund method. We will conclude our session by taking the review of the accounting for taxes. This is the roadmap for our session. Next, we will see what exactly economics and management. Cash flow statement reveals the causes of changes in the cash position of business concerned between two dates of balance sheet. Accounting to accounting standard, an enterprise should prepare a cash flow statement and should present it for each period with financial statement prepared. Accounting standard has also given the meaning of the words cash, cash equivalent, and cash flow. Cash, this include cash on hand and demand deposits with bank. Cash equivalents, this includes purely a short term and highly liquid investment which are readily convertible into cash and which are subject to an insignificant risk of change in value. Therefore, an investment normally qualifies as a cash equivalent only when it has a short maturity or 3 months or less than the maturity. Then cash flow. This include inflows and outflows of cash and cash equivalents. If the effect of transactions result in the increase of the cash and its equivalent, it is called an inflow or source, and if it result in decrease of total cash, it is known as outflow. From the next slide onward, we will discussing cash flow particularly in relation to project along with the study of the various elements. So next we will learn one important term, that is depreciation for accounting. Apart from assets such as land, goodwill, livestock and research and development, all other assets like building, machine and equipment, they are degraded. It means degradation means efficiency is going to be reduced. With the passage of time, the degradation could be on account of wear and tear caused by its constant use or by the advent of new technology, rendering the older technology, that is redundant. Wherever be a reason for degradation, it is finally impacts the value of the assets. The reduction in the value of asset is known as depreciation. Hence, to overcome this loss and to be able to replace the assets, every organization sets aside a certain percentage of cost of the asset from its profit. Profit in the sense permissible deduction by tax authorities. For what purpose? To raise the depreciation or the sinking fund to enable it to replace the asset with a new one. Then sinking fund calculate using the simple formula, that is initial cost of asset plus repairing cost, and that is going to be subtracted from the scrap value. What is changed to be overheads and spread over the estimated useful life of the asset. The amount is deducted from the profit, and the organization and it's keeping the separate account for the same purpose. We will listening to the depreciation word many times, but what exactly it? So let's address the question: what is depreciation? Depreciation is the measure of the wearing out, consumption, or other loss of the value of depreciable assets arising from the use or passing of time, or you can say the outdated technology and market change. So, according to the William Pickle, that depreciation is the permanent and continued diminution in the quality or quantity or the value of an asset. While according to the Spicer and Plinger, depreciation may be defined as measure of the exhaustion of the effective life of an asset from any cause during a given period. Mr. Spicer and Plinger have written a book named Practical Auditing. So next is the causes of depreciation are broadly categorized into the two parts. First part is internal depreciation and another part is the external depreciation. But to understand the causes of depreciation, we must know the term depreciation. What exactly deterioration means? The first is physical deterioration. Physical deterioration is caused by normal wear and tear, that is resulting from the use, or one can say the rust or the erosion arising from the exposure to the wind, rain, sun and other climatic factor. Then another reason is that careless handling of the asset when it is used or operated. Then next factor is economic factor. These factors prove the use of assets uneconomically through the assets is in good physical condition. This arise due to obsolescence caused by the invention of the improved technique or equipment. The second reason is the decline in determined by the change in customers' taste for article producible from the existing machinery or the plant. Then third reason is an inadequate refer to the termination of the present asset due to the increase in volume or activeness. In other words, an asset may get exhausted through working. This is the cause of mineral mines or oil wells. On account of continuous extraction of mineral or the oil may come when the mines or the wells get completely exhausted and work has to be terminated. Reduction in the value of the mine is thus considered as an depreciation. From this diagram, the internal causes further classified as wear and tear. Wear and tear means decrease in assets value arising from its use in business operation. Then second one is the disuse. When a machine is kept continuously idle, it becomes potentially less useful. Then next is maintenance. When the machine is not maintained properly, its condition gets deteriorated. Then depletion. Depletion physically reduction of natural resources by exhausting, for example the mines or the oil wells. Depletion is one of the internal causes of decrease in the value or wasting asset as mine. This decrease in value of wasting asset is called depletion. And not depreciation. Then we will discuss the external causes. The first cause is obsolescence, decrease in the value of property as the result of technological advancement. Then next is effluxion of time, also called passage of time. When assets are exposed to force or to the nature like weather, wind, rain, the value of such assets may decrease even if they are not put into any use. There are certain acts such as lease or patent, license, copyright which lose their value to zero at the end of a fixed period of time. It is immaterial where it is used or not. Hence, it should be written off gradually during the entire period of its legal life in order to write it off fully by end of the life. Any provision made to write off this type of asset is called as amortization rather than provision of depreciation. Then next is time factor. This time factor means lease or the copyright or the patent are acquired for a fixed period of time. On the expiry of the fixed period of the time, the assets cease to exist. So this is the causes of depreciation. So next we will see certain popular method used in calculation of the depreciation factor. Let's discuss the popular method applied by various enterprises to calculate the depreciation cost of an asset. There are three major methods named as straight line method or fixed installment method, popularly known as the original cost method. Then second is written down value method, or you can call it is the reducing balance method or diminishing balance method or of changing depreciation. Then third is sinking fund method. Now one by one we will discuss all these three methods. So we begin with the first method, that is straight line method. In straight line method, in this method the assets is written down in value each year by the same or the fixed amount. This amount is such that the book value of an asset is reduced to zero at the end of its life. This method assumes that the cost expiration of an asset is uniform throughout its effective life. The amount of depreciation depends on the cost of the price of the asset, then estimated scrap value of the asset, then estimated life period of the asset. This method is useful for those assets whose working life can easily be estimated, that is period based on assets, that is patent or lease, whether the effective life of asset is measured in terms of the irrespective of the use of the service from the asset. The formula for charging yearly depreciation, the amount of depreciation to be charged or written off every year under this method is same or equal. The amount is calculated by deducting the estimated value of the scrap from the cost of the asset. Cost means original cost plus installation charges, and dividing this term by the estimated life of the asset. So next we will discuss certain advantages and disadvantages of the straight line method. The advantages of the straight line method, the first advantage is the method is simple and easy to understand. Second is no detailed record of yearly output or usage of hours are required. Then third advantage is, since the life of certain assets such as patent right and lease depends on the agreement and period of time, almost similar benefits may be derived from these assets throughout their life. The next advantage is, this method is most useful since it assumes that favorable impacts of some factor are offset by unfavorable effects of some other factors. So these are the certain advantages. Now next we will see certain disadvantages. The disadvantages are, this method does not take into the consideration the interest on the capital invested in fixed asset. Second disadvantage is, initial period the repair of an new assets are low, and later when it becomes older its service rendering capacity reduce while repairing charges increases, and hence there will be an excess burden of depreciation on profit and loss account than its absorbing capacity. Then third disadvantage is, the method become complicated in case various machines are frequently purchased and sold. Then another disadvantage, under this method the amount of depreciation remain constant even during the period of inflation where maintenance of capital becomes difficult. This method is not recognized by income tax authorities. Next, we will discuss reducing balance method. This reducing balance method is depreciation is also known as the reducing balance method or diminishing balance method. Under this method, a fixed rate on the opening balance of the asset is charged as depreciation every year. Since its fixed rate of depreciation is applied to the written down value, the amount of depreciation charged every year decrease over the life of the asset. In other words, do the percentage at which the depreciation is charged remain fixed, the amount of depreciation goes on reducing year after an year, because a fixed percentage is applied to the diminishing value of the asset. The next is, the amount of depreciation is higher at earlier period and then become lower in the subsequent period. When repair and maintenance charges increases gradually, this method is suitable for those assets which have a longer life and which is difficult to be estimated. This method is used in case of those fixed assets where the initial repair charges are less and the repair charges are gradually increasing in the year to come. The written down value of an asset calculated by written down value, that is W of an asset, is calculated by W is equal to C 1 minus R by 100, where C is the original cost, R is the depreciation. So we can able to calculate the written down value W. So these are the things associated with the written down value. Next, we will see certain advantages and disadvantages of this method. The advantages of reducing balance method are, this method is recognized under Income Tax Act and the Companies Act. The combined charge for depreciation and repair is almost equal every year. The value of asset is never completely reduced to zero. Hence, the existence of asset is always disclosed by the account and as long as it is in use in business. Then next advantage is recalculation is not necessary when additional assets are purchased. The amount of depreciation decreases continuously with the gradual decrease in service available from the assets. So these are the certain advantages of reducing balance method. Now we will discuss certain disadvantages of this method. The disadvantages are, under this method, asset is never completely depreciated. Second is, the method does not take into the account interest on capital invested in the asset. Then, under this method, longer period is required to reduce the asset's value to negligible amount. The calculation of depreciation under this method is difficult than fixed installment method. Another disadvantage is this method gives too much importance to the historical or original cost of the asset. Though the mentioned method has its own disadvantage, it is found suitable for plant and machinery as well as furniture and fixture. It also used in land and building, that is on those fixed asset which a longer life and is difficult to estimate. So next we will discuss the sinking fund method. The sinking fund method is a technique for depreciating an asset while generating enough money to replace it at the end of its useful life. As depreciation charges are incurred to reflect the asset's falling value, a matching amount of cash is invested. These funds sit in a sinking fund account and generate interest. In most cases, sinking fund invest in government banking securities such as treasury notes, bills, and bonds, where the investment matching the duration of the asset's life are usually used, but shorter term investment can be reinvested. The assets depreciation schedule determine the investment amount. The sinking fund method is seen as complex, particularly as it is required the use of a separate replacement fund for each asset. Moreover, companies recognize that the cost of the replacing an old asset can change over time and are also mindful that it is difficult to put enough cash aside when interest rates are unpredictable and constantly fluctuate. In addition to the added complexity of the sinking fund method, there are other reasons why this method is not suitable. For example, some companies prefer to invest capital resources in other areas with more promising return. Additionally, companies may also use the sinking fund method of depreciation for real estate asset. Different scenarios may apply to real estate assets, but one of the most common is the depreciation of lease renewal. In this situation, a depreciation schedule is based on the lease from an expected interest. So this is the thing associated with the sinking fund method. Next, we will discuss certain advantages and disadvantages of sinking fund method. The advantages of sinking fund method are: this method enables the organization to accumulate the amount of depreciation which can be readily available to replace the asset at the end of its life. Second advantage is this method is incorporate the advantages of depreciating the value of the asset as well as accumulating an amount which will be enable the organization to replace the asset. Another advantage is sinking fund method helps to strengthen the financial position of the concern. These are the certain advantages. Now next we will see certain disadvantages of sinking fund method. The burden on profit and loss accounts goes on increasing as the year passes by, since the amount of depreciation every year remains the same, but the amount spent on repair goes on increasing as assets become old. Sinking fund method creates complication due to the frequent investment. And another disadvantage is prices of securities may fall at the time when they are to be realized, as a result of which loss may have to be suffered. So these are the certain advantages and disadvantages of a sinking fund method. Now next we will see one important term with the depreciation, that is accounting for taxes. The finance minister is head and in charge of tax collected for the central government. There are two types of taxes from the point of view of collection and authority, like central government taxes and state government taxes. Taxes are the source of revenue for the governments and paid by the Indian public as well as all type of businesses. There are two main types of categories of taxes. In this diagram, we show these two types of taxes. One is the direct tax and another is the indirect tax. So what is this direct tax? It is a tax levied directly on a taxpayer who pays it on the government and cannot pass it on someone else. Then question arises, what are the direct taxes imposed in India? Some of the important direct tax imposed in India, such as income tax. What is this income tax? Income tax is imposed on an individual who falls under the different tax brackets based on their earnings or revenue, and they have to file an income tax return every year, after which they will either need to pay the tax or eligible for the tax refund. Another is the wealth tax, that is belonging to the direct tax. This wealth tax is imposed on the value of the property that a person possesses. One more tax is estate tax, also known as inheritance tax. It is raised on the estate or the total value of the money and the property that an individual has left behind after their death. So these are the direct tax. Now, however, with these both estate and wealth tax are now abolished, income is defined under the income tax section 2 of 24. The term income also include those terms which may not ordinarily means as income. In addition to income, any other receipt is also taxable. Income include profit and gain, dividend and interest, voluntary contribution received, salary, interest commission received by a partner or a partnership firm, any benefit or the prerequisite received in Indian rupees is called income and it is taxable. Now we will discuss another tax, that is indirect tax. What is this indirect tax? This indirect tax is levied by government on goods and services and not on the income or the profit or the revenue of an individual, and it can be shifted from one taxpayer to the another taxpayer. Earlier, indirect tax means paying more than the actual price of a product that is going to be bought or service acquired, and there was a myriad of indirect tax imposed on taxpayer. Let's discuss what are these indirect taxes. First one is the custom duty. This custom duty, import duty, levied on goods coming from the outside the country, ultimately paid by the consumer and the retailers in India. Custom duty is a kind of indirect tax which is realized on goods of international trade. In an economic sense, it is also a kind of consumption tax. The duties levied by the government in relation to imported items are referred to as an import duty. In the same vein, duties realized on export consignment are called export duties. The tariff, which is actually a list of commodities along with the leviable amount of the custom duty, is properly understood as a custom duty. Then central excise duty. This central excise duty, this tax was payable by the manufacturer who would then shift the tax burden to the retailer and the wholesaler. The central excise duties are the largest source of the revenue for the country. Approximately 30% of the total revenue received and collected from central excise duty. The levy and the collection of central excise duties is under the authority of the Central Excise Act 1944. Then after that there will be a service tax which belonging to again with our indirect tax. This service tax imposed on the gross or the aggregated amount charged by the service provider on the recipient. Then next is sale tax. This sale tax or the VAT was paid by the retailer who would then shift the tax burden to the customer by charging the sale tax on the goods and the service. This VAT is also collected on the value of goods or the service that were added at each stage of their manufacturing or the distribution and then finally passed on to the customer. Value added tax is a multi-point sale tax, set of tax paid on the purchase. It is basically a tax on the value addition on the product. The burden of the tax is ultimately borne by the consumer of goods. In many aspects, it is equivalent to the last point sale tax. It can also be called a multi-point sale tax, that is levied as a proportion of the value added tax. So these are the taxes in India. Next, we will summarize our today's session. By all the discussion, we get to know about accounting for depreciation. We understand that depreciation is allocated so as to change a fair proportion of the depreciable amount in each accounting period during the expected useful life of the asset. We briefly discussed the causes of depreciation such as economic factors, passage of time and depletion. We reviewed three popular methods for depreciation, that is calculation such as straight line method, written down value method, sinking fund method. we conclude our session with the discussion on direct and indirect tax. So next we will see certain study question based on our today's session. The first question is state the causes of depreciation. The second question, briefly describe the different methods of depreciation. Then state the advantages of the straight line method of depreciation. And the last question, state the disadvantages of straight line method of depreciation. So solve this study question honestly and upload the answers on our Google Classroom. In next session, we will start learning the second module of Unit 6, that is project cost element. The basic fundamentals of Unit 6 are available in this textbook. You can take the review of these fundamentals to understand the next session more clearly. If you have any queries or difficulty in solving the study question, feel free to post your queries at the forum of our Google Classroom. Thank you very much. Have a good day.